General purpose locomotives. For most of us, when we think of them, we think of the railroad's four-axle Jeep locomotives. And you would be right. General purpose engines, whether it's a rebuild or a original, almost everyone has them. But here are the questions and answers I want you all to know. When was the first general purpose engine built, and for what railroad? Well, the first GP series, or general purpose locomotive, also known as a Jeep, with a G instead of a J, was built in 1948 by the Electromotive Division, or EMD, of General Motors. The locomotive was a GP7 model with 1,500 horsepower and was 55 feet 9 inches long, 10 feet and 3 inches wide. EMD built more than 2,500 GP7 locomotives. This includes both high hood and standard cab locomotive variations. The locomotives between 1949 and 1954 for use on American railroads. The GP7 was available with or without control cabs. Cabless models were called GP7Bs. The GP7 was eventually replaced by the GP9 model, which was built between 1954 and 1959. The GP9 had a 1,750 horsepower 16-cylinder engine. The first railroad to order and receive the GP7s, however, was none other than the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad, arrived in August and September of 1950. Throughout the years, EMD has built well over 4,000 general purpose locomotives, whether it be a GP9, GP15, GP30, GP38, GP40. There are countless locomotive models, each being more modern and having higher horsepower. There are over 1,200 general purpose locomotives classified as GP40s. How many cab variants are there? There are only 4 different variants that railroads prefer. Back in the 50s and 60s, some railroads prefer to have B units. These are cabless locomotives that would be connected to an A unit and would take commands from the A locomotive. Then we have what is called Southern style, which is a high hood locomotive. The Southern Railroad famously ran these long hood forward. Then you have the standard cab, which is the most common that you will see out on the railroads today. Pretty much every railroad you can think of, whether it be the Illinois Central or Conrail or even CSX, most of them have a standard cab. And probably the one of the most obscure or unusual cab variants would be the Canadian wide cab, which was ordered by the Canadian National that preferred to have wide cab on their engines, including their four-axle units, to provide crew safety. Where are they now? Most of these engines are still kicking around on many railroads to this day. Some railroads like CSX have taken initiative to rebuild the engines to be more fuel efficient and more up to date. And pretty much every single regional railroad you could possibly think of has some form of general purpose locomotive, whether it's a GP9, GP38, or a GP15. There are countless engines still around, some of which still wear the original railroad's paint scheme, and others are on railroad historical preservations and are owned by different railroad museums. The future for these engines still is promising. While most will probably be sold off to short line and regional railroads in the future, other railroads like CSX and Canadian Pacific are rebuilding them from the ground up, whether it be experimenting on them, trying to make them hydrogen fuel cell engines, or rebuilding them to make them cleaner and have longer life on the rails. But either way, these engines still have a bright future ahead and are very reliable. And with there being so many of these engines around to this day, it wouldn't be surprising that a YouTuber such as Mr. Beast would get their hands on these engines and use them for their videos because of their abundancy. But either way, these engines still have a bright future ahead of them, with many more years to go on the railroad. and a lot of them having been preserved. At the Chicago, Illinois Railroad Museum, for example, there are a handful of GP7s and GP9s that have been preserved and will sometimes lead excursions. And even better, they wear the paint scheme that the original railroad that owned them. Anyway, that is all for this video today. If you guys enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if this video reaches 150,000... If this video reaches 150,000 likes, which I doubt, because none of my videos have ever gone that viral, but if it does, by some miracle, I will cover the locomotive that is the most topped comment on this video. So if this video reaches 150,000 likes, leave a comment suggesting what locomotive I should talk about. That'll be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed this experimenty documentary style video. I'd like to give a huge shout out to the following YouTubers that have contributed to this video creation, such as Trains Forever 2024, Arts the Kitty, and I myself. Anyway, links in the description for their channels. Have a great day.